we've been handed a body of source material that doesn't just blur the line between science fiction and fantasy.
Mm.
It just dissolves it completely.
Yeah.
This is a deep dive into a world where you've got this high-stakes action, these hidden powers, and some just really heart-wrenching emotional backstories all colliding head-on.
Mm.
We're looking at a secret war, and it's being fought on, rain-swept city streets, and at the same time, in this sort of invisible machinery beneath them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What we have here is, it's the detailed anatomy of a conflict that is fundamentally existential.
Right.
It's a modern narrative, but it's built on top of this ancient hidden foundation of power. The sources, they just thrust us right into an apocalyptic scenario, a crisis that's known simply as the end of the world, and it's all anchored around this secret power structure they call the Loom, and this encroaching demonic entity, the outsider.
And it's not just a simple good versus evil thing, is it?
No, not at all. It's really about structure versus pure, unadulterated chaos.
So our mission today is pretty laser focused. We need to extract the core lore, the narrative of this really complex universe, and give you a full engaging overview so you can just instantly get the stakes and the history.
Yeah.
The sources focus on this really unlikely group of heroes. You've got Detective Ping Bannon, who's the street-smart pragmatist. Alex Ahmed, the savant hacker prodigy. You've got these enhanced individuals, Deck and Roy, and maybe the most surprising game changer of all, a phlebotomist named Anne Kelly.
Right, the phlebotomist.
And they're all racing against this powerful up-and-coming clan called Asado and this chaotic entity, the outsider, that Asado mistakenly thinks it can control.
And that central conflict, it really demands a high level of understanding of this world's internal logic.
Yeah.
So to navigate this, we have to definitively answer three, I think, foundational questions that come right from the source material. First, what exactly is the Loom?
Right.
How does it even work? Second, who are the savants who can manipulate it?
And third, the one that really got me.
A weird one.
The weird one. What is the profound secret connection between trisomy 21 Down syndrome, the rapper Vanilla Ice, and, the actual act of saving reality?
That last point, it sounds like a joke, like a throwaway line.
It really does.
But I promise you, by the time we're done here, the emotional weight of that connection will be the key piece of knowledge you take away from all this.
Okay, so let's start by defining the ground rules of this hidden reality. Let's dig into the physics, the underlying mechanics of existence itself.
The Loom is the absolute foundational concept here. It's defined, well, not physically, but metaphorically. It's the mesh of creation.
The fabric of reality.
The fabric of reality itself. And it's mainly accessible through what they call the Underworld, which it's not hell or anything like that.
No.
It's more like the structural space beneath or within our consensus reality. And it's through this mesh that savants, these enhanced individuals, so we might as well call them wizards, can actively manipulate power. They're literally rewriting the source code of the physical world.
And what immediately jumps out in the material is just how visceral the description is of accessing the Loom. It's not, just meditation or some mental visualization.
Not at all.
The source material shows it as this incredibly complex, really intense, multi-sensory process that, it defies any easy categorization.
It really does. It's likened to this mashup of highly specialized, almost anachronistic crafts. The quote is, glass blowing and silicon etching with just a little ironmongery and textile manufacture thrown in.
That's such a weird combination of things.
That combination is deliberate and it's crucial. Think about the metaphors. Glass blowing. That implies shaping something that's hot, fragile, foundational.
Okay.
Silicon etching that suggests incredibly fine, modern technological manipulation. And then you have ironmongery, which roots the whole process in this heavy, almost brutalist shaping.
So it's not some clean, pure energy field.
No, it's messy. It encompasses both the highly technical and the, almost primitive elements of creation itself.
And it gets even more intimate and bizarre. Savants don't just see this power or feel it. They experience it, like, in their bodies.
Corporeally, yeah. They feel the sensation of electric serpents running through their flesh. It's this chaotic, live energy.
And they even taste it.
They taste carbonation.
Like seltzer water. What does that even mean?
Well, I think the taste of carbonation is particularly fascinating. It suggests a sharp, ephemeral fizziness.
Okay.
Like energy is constantly bubbling up and escaping the structured patterns of reality. It tells you that the savants are constantly engaged with the fundamental instability of existence. They're dealing with reality as a perpetual process, not not a finished product.
And when they interact with this buzzing metallic electrical reality, they're not just like winging it.
Well,
they use these formalized, powerful structures. These are what the source material calls casts and weaves.
exactly. Casts and weaves are the structural patterns the savants impose onto the loom to manipulate that power.
Ah.
Think of casts as the foundational blueprint, a specific set of instructions or a spell structure.
Got it.
Weaves, on the other hand, are the execution. They're the structured patterns that bind the raw, chaotic energy of the loom into a focused effect.
So a weave could be for something simple like protection or minor healing.
Or something incredibly complex and devastating, like Shiva's grappling technique or a massive infrastructure jam.
Okay, let's use that one, Shiva's grappling weave, as an example, since it comes up later in the climax. It wasn't just raw telekinesis, was it?
Oh, not at all. A high-level weave like grappling that requires immense focus and a huge power expenditure. Shiva, she's the third-rank savant of Asado, so she's not just lifting Anne. She is weaving the very geometry of the space around her.
The geometry.
Yes. She's structuring the power of the loom to create these pressure vectors that pin Anne painfully against the ceiling. It's a very precise application of force. And if Alex, our hacker prodigy, hadn't been able to visually and functionally shatter the intricate pattern of that weave,
She would have been unstoppable.
completely untouchable.
So the older, more experienced savants, they're not just powerful, they're living, breathing libraries of these complex weaves.
And the savants themselves are not new to the scene. They are ancient.
Right.
The very first line of defense we meet against the outsider Isak Kaspari and his counterpart, Eva Lutine, they're defined by their extraordinary longevity and deep influence on history. They're not easily scared because, well, they've seen empires rise and fall, often because of their own subtle nudges.
And the material gives us this one just chilling little detail to anchor how long these people have been around. Kaspari, for all his sophistication, was pretty definite that there had never been a King Arthur.
That's a fascinating piece of lore, isn't it?
It is.
It tells us that these savants not only predate our established myths, but they know how those myths were fabricated. They can look back at the raw historical record and separate the truth from the consensus narrative.
So the Underworld, or the Loom, it holds this deeper, unfiltered history of humanity, and only they know it.
Exactly. They operate on a timeline that just dwarfs human civilization.
And within this ancient structure, we see this power shift happening. While Evo and Kaspari represent the old guard trying to keep a balance, the main antagonistic force is this clan, Asado. And it's described as a previously minor one that's now emerging as a major force.
The rise of Asado is crucial to the story. They were a peripheral clan, likely less skilled, but their willingness, or maybe just their recklessness, to engage with the outsider has given them this dramatic, unstable boost in power.
Which makes them a force to be reckoned with.
They are the definition of an emergent threat. They're leveraging chaos to gain rapid dominance.
This secret war, though, it's not entirely invisible to the non-enhanced world, is it?
No, it's not.
It seems to manifest in this widespread societal desperation for connection, which brings us to the chemical shortcuts that the average person is taking, the connectivity drugs.
And this is where the metaphysical conflict directly impacts the sociocultural fabric. The very existence of these drugs, specifically beta-tryptamine and harmony, it highlights this profound ache within modern humanity.
People are so disconnected.
So disconnected that they are actively seeking chemical means to link into what they call the whole and achieve a shared experience.
Beta, or beta, is the widespread, sort of semi-acceptable form. It gives you a shared synchronous experience, which the users crave. They report being linked deep inside the whole, singing in perfect sync, dancing together.
Provides what the source material Riley calls faux compassion, simulated empathy.
Faux compassion. That's the key phrase, isn't it?
It really is. Beta is designed to give you the feeling of genuine connection without any of the messy reality of actual human engagement. It's a pharmaceutical shortcut to belonging.
And it has its drawbacks. The material mentions this really annoying experience of haiku stanzas stroboscoping inside your mind when you're jonesing for a dose.
Yeah, the idea that your withdrawal symptom is seeing random, specific three-line poems flashing in your head perfectly encapsulates the strange blend of the deeply structural and the utterly trivial in this universe.
A structured chemical craving, but the output is literary and annoying.
Exactly. And if beta is the simulacrum of connection, harmony is, Well, it's the abyss.
Right.
It's far more potent and exponentially more dangerous. The source material is unflinching about the consequences, mentioning users going on immediate killing sprees.
And that horrific detail, having to clean their own vitreous humor off their fingers.
So graphic. And yet, for those desperate enough to try it, there's still an appeal. But even within the narrative, the danger is recognized. A character like Jin, who is actively seeking connection, he views the resulting psychotic violence as an unacceptable speed bump on the road to bliss.
So even the most desperate people know that harmony crosses a line into just pure, unusable chaos?
Yeah. So the societal takeaway here is tragic. We've got a modern world full of people just trying to feel human again, longing to be linked again to the family of man.
Right.
And these potent volatile drugs, they show that the spiritual crisis of disconnection is so severe that people will risk psychosis and death just to feel, even falsely, that they belong.
And it creates this powerful thematic contrast. The average human is seeking simulated connection through chemicals,
Right.
while our main characters are forced to forge genuine, messy, life-or-death connections just to survive the metaphysical war being waged under the surface.
Which brings us perfectly to those protagonists.
Yeah.
Let's start with the two savants, whose tragic story really forms the emotional foundation of the entire conflict. Deck and his brother Roy.
Yeah.
This is where the emotional depth of the lore truly begins, and it's rooted in a really unexpected medical condition.
The revelation is stunning, and it's deeply moving. Deck, the fallen man who crash lands into the story, and his adopted older brother Roy, who used the alias Peter Seberg, they shared an origin defined by vulnerability. Both of them had trisomy 21, Down syndrome.
Down syndrome. Before the ancient and powerful savant, Ivo Lutin changed them, transforming them into these enhanced beings capable of tremendous power.
And this immediately forces us to ask that question the critique raised. Why this origin? Why did Ivo Lutin, an ancient, immortal wizard, choose to empower orphans with this specific neurological condition?
The sources strongly imply that Ivo's choice was philosophical, not accidental. In this world, the savants are typically highly structured, they're arrogant, they're emotionally cold.
Right.
Individuals with trisomy 21 often experience the world with a unique openness, profound emotional attachment, and a lack of the complex, cynical filters that most savants use to manage the Loom.
So by choosing them, Ivo was grounding this immense power in beings defined by profound, unwavering love.
An inherent non-cynical connection. It's a remarkable narrative choice. That the capacity for profound, simple love is the necessary counterbalance to reality-warping power.
Roy was the elder, collected by Ivo way back in 1676 in St. Petersburg. He was Ivo's son, fiercely protected and loved, despite having a personality that was famously frustrating, but also, utterly beloved.
We get these wonderful little glimpses into their domestic life. Roy was the kind of person who, during Ivo's most serious moments, maybe he's in the middle of a weave or discussing existential threats, Roy would just relentlessly manipulate his ancient father into watching copies of Blade Runner.
I love that detail. It gives you a perfect snapshot of their dynamic. Immense power, just completely undercut by the persistent, humanizing force of family irritation.
Absolutely. And Roy had this specific, deeply rooted enthusiasm for 20th century American pop culture, which provides the emotional core of the final clue.
His intense love affair with the movie Cool as Ice and the rapper Vanilla Ice.
It was an obsession that his younger brother Deck endured, as the source says, with calm determination.
And Deck, he was made by Ivo much later, in 1989, specifically for Isak Kaspari, who basically acted as his father and his master.
Right. But Deck's power manifested differently. He couldn't consciously cast or weave like other savants. Instead, he carried the Loom as a constant presence, feeling it sizzling always around and through my thoughts.
This constant low-level integration with the Loom, the ceaseless awareness, is what made him the perfect vessel for the ultimate power transfer, the Forge.
Yes. But before we get to the climax, we have to appreciate their relationship through the most poignant anecdote in the sources, the convenience store flashback.
Yeah.
This is the moment that defines their connection.
So Deck and Roy are at a store, and a group of college kids, completely unaware they're talking to two beings who could instantly rewrite their existence, they start insulting them, using a derogatory term related to their past condition.
And Deck is instantly filled with this cold rage. He's tempted to step forward and just engage in violence.
But Roy stops him.
He stops him. And he doesn't rely on brute strength or savant power. He relies on his emotional anchor, his pop culture icon. He says, at times like these, I like to think, what would Vanilla Ice do? It helps to guide me.
And the resulting dialogue is just gold. Deck, completely missing the point of Roy's self-developed coping mechanism, he hisses back. He'd brandish a weapon and get sued?
And Roy, adopting his best, most earnest Ward Cleaver voice, he replies, "Yep, and look how happy that made him. See? Does the Nilla not hold the key to all true wisdom?"
It's a fantastic, deeply humanizing moment. It just showcases their unwavering love and the unique way Roy processed the world.
And this deeply human element, forged over centuries, is what leaves the crucial clues the remaining heroes need. After Deck's final, desperate, fatal action, he leaves this cryptic code for Ping to find under Roy's bed. 201 £.
That code leads Ping to a secret memorabilia box.
Yeah.
And the code itself, 2019 £, is brilliant because it wasn't some complex encryption.
Nope.
It was a simple instruction tied to Roy's childhood in St. Petersburg. It was the weight of his first childhood pet, a dog.
And inside that box, the two vital items link their past to the present. A crude pewter cross, an amulet Roy had from his childhood.
Which turns out to be a surprisingly powerful object in its own right.
It does. And the cherished Vanilla Ice CD case, holding a handwritten, slightly exasperated birthday message from Deck. This silly CD, the object of their shared frustration and love, becomes the key to unlocking the entire puzzle.
Okay, so let's pivot from the ancient and the enhanced to the grounding force of the investigation. Detective Ping Bannon, the reluctant warrior.
Ping Bannon is the epitome of the highly skilled human operative forced into a war he never understood. His discipline is rooted in a specific martial arts tradition. He was raised in the Wing Chun Kuns, the Gun Fu and Chong Fu schools.
Right, run by his family in Hong Kong and later Chicago.
And his family mantra, which he lives by, is simple but effective. And it's a direct contradiction to the chaos of the Loom. Fighting was reflexes, resolve, and geometry.
That emphasis on geometry, seeing the shortest distance, the most effective angle, the clean lines, that becomes his constant anchor in a world that's warping around him.
His career path offers a great psychological insight into his character. He initially studied criminal psychology, which makes perfect sense for a detective.
But then he unexpectedly switched to marriage and family counseling in his second year.
He eventually returned to police work, making the poignant admission that the stakes in counseling felt just too high, whereas the stakes in law enforcement were simple.
Okay, I have to challenge that point, just like the critique suggested. How can dealing with a rogue Savant clan and an impending dimensional breach be simpler than mediating a divorce?
It's about emotional simplicity versus physical complexity. In counseling, the moral gray areas are endless.
Sure.
The emotional damage is slow, it's deep, it's irreversible, and there are no clear winners or losers. In law enforcement, even when you're dealing with demons, the stakes for Ping are clear. Stop the threat, or the threat wins.
It's a profound rejection of emotional ambiguity in favor of clear geometric action.
Exactly. He prefers a fight where the target is defined, even if the enemy is supernatural.
That reframing makes his character choice much richer. He's driven by a need for unambiguous resolution, and his skills are rooted in pure speed and efficiency. He's got this incredibly fast draw, fast enough to beat the skilled officer Ray Jackson in a confrontation.
An essential trait, given the speed of Savant action. And he's fighting this hidden war with tools that reflect his new composite life. He's carrying Roy's sword, a forged ancient weapon capable of cleaving weaves.
And his personal firearm, a stolen flechette gun that fires 25 tiny darts per shell. He is the human embodiment of the struggle, armed with the relics of the fallen.
Moving from Ping, the master of geometry, we come to Anne Kelly, the phlebotomist who is just violently ripped from her ordinary life and thrust into the center of the conflict.
And becomes arguably the most powerful agent in the whole story.
Yeah. Anne's transformation is maybe the most dramatic plot device in the entire source material. She was simply walking home from her hospital, shift mundane, orderly life, when Deck, having executed his final desperate maneuver, came crashing out of the sky and physically grabbed her.
That moment resulted in this cataclysmic transfer of power described as a blood linkage.
And a horrific, pulsing mark on her neck, the infamous nuclear hickey.
The nuclear hickey.
It's more than just a wound. It's the physical manifestation of a chaotic, raw power transfer. Deck's sword, the power he constantly carried, intended to contain the outsider, was violently displaced into Anne.
And this linkage instantly transforms her. She becomes incredibly strong. She enters this heightened sensory state where, during trauma or combat, the world just shifts into slow motion around her.
And the internal comparison she makes to understand her new physical reality is priceless. She feels like a slightly heavier version of an enraged rhino.
She grapples with the change, initially seeing herself as this monstrous anomaly, a vampire.
But the physical transformation is secondary to the mental one, and this is the true core for power. Before the incident, Anne's life was defined by fear, a life she viewed as wasted, squandered on fear and self-pity.
And the pain and shock of that linkage just completely incinerates that fear.
In its place rises something entirely new. The passion of determination and a hot fury, specifically directed against what she calls the god of fear.
She goes from being a person paralyzed by emotional ambivalence, afraid of living, afraid of dying, to one who finally chooses a side.
And her profound refusal to live in fear is what successfully weaponizes the power deck transferred to her. The Forge, a power intended to contain chaos, is now wielded by pure, unyielding human resolve. And this Forge is the immense raw power that Asato and the Outsider now desperately seek.
Finally, we need to detail the relationship between Ray Jackson, the skilled officer, and Alex Ahmed, the savant prodigy. Their bond provides the emotional framework for the post-climax world.
Their relationship started with this strict, almost comical list of rules. They had three major constraints. 1, absolutely no lies, big or small.
Okay.
2, no hanging out in the bedroom, a classic proxy rule.
And 3,
Absolutely no sex.
it's the ultimate boundary setting, especially given the chaos that's all around them.
And Alex, we learn, insisted on these rules because he had a long game plan. He wanted a respectable, regret-free life with Ray, built on mutual respect and clarity.
Ray, though, she initially suspected he was either in gay denial or, maybe more dramatically, planning a virgin sacrifice.
Alex, despite his strict emotional control, is a natural genius, a prodigy savant with raw, natural talents on the Loom. He can do complex manipulations that most savants spend centuries learning.
But he's also intensely self-conscious, seeing himself as a bit of a dorky geek, a perspective he struggles to reconcile with his immense power.
We get a glimpse of his tech geek identity through his history. His VR gaming handle is Smack, and as a teenager, he invented the Hacktronic 3000, or HT3K. This device was groundbreaking because it could rewrite the supposedly unwritable Assisi chips used in high-level government security systems.
Okay, the Assisi chip detail is important. In this world, the chip was designed, maybe by a minor savant or an Ivo-aligned scientist, to be immune to electronic hacking by having its core structure linked to a static, structured pattern on the Loom.
And Alex's HT3K essentially provided a backdoor by using his innate savant talent to subtly weave past that structured defense. It proves his genius isn't just in hardware, but in understanding how the Loom interacts with technology.
But the deep tension in their relationship comes from Ray's self-perception. She struggles profoundly with feeling unpretty, measuring herself against these unattainable beauty standards.
Alex's response to this is one of the most romantic pieces of lore. He gives her a magical necklace, a cameo, and crucially, the cameo doesn't change her physical appearance. Instead, it changes how you see.
It allows her to see herself as Alex and her deceased father saw her, naturally symmetric, elegant, and beautiful.
It's a psychological application of the Loom designed to heal self-pity.
And their relationship arc culminates with the final item, her wedding ring, a simple titanium band. The source reveals this ring grants her the same power as the cameo, meaning she can now fly too.
And this is both metaphorical, she has embraced her self-worth and inner strength, and potentially literal, as the Forge allows for complex reality manipulation.
So this emotional architecture is now fully realized, ready for the escalation of the conflict which leads to the climax.
Which means we need to turn our attention now to the immediate physical threat.
Yeah.
The harms and the chaotic mind behind them, the outsider.
Okay, let's move into Section 3, because this is where all the threads we've discussed, the Forge, the Savants, the family connection, ignite in spectacular fashion. Let's start with the agents of chaos.
The immediate physical threat is the harms. They are described as human meat puppets, tragically possessed by oily bugs or dark, glistening insects that pour in from a pocket of darkness connected to the outsider.
And what makes them so terrifying is their functional unpredictability. Initially, when you encounter them individually, they just exhibit this psychotic random violence.
The police were trying to restrain individual maniacs.
Right, but once the outsider begins to link them, their behavior shifts dramatically.
They become coordinated. They start moving with this terrifying, purposeful unity. They gain supernatural resistance. They're capable of snapping harm-grade riot cuffs restraints designed specifically for their elevated strength.
They chant in unison, and as one officer observed, they move with the chilling efficiency of the devil's butler on payday.
That's such a great line. It shows that the chaos is being harnessed for a singular, destructive goal.
And the mind behind this is the outsider. It's an entity that has latched onto Isaac Kaspari, having followed him back from a journey into the underworld.
And the outsider is not a singular demon. It is a distributed intelligence. It is numberless as the sands of all seas, described as linked, shimmering black creatures, a horrific conglomeration of roaches, spiders, and desiccated jellyfish.
Pure, chaotic sentience seeking to dissolve all structure.
Its singular goal is to gain access to the Loom, and then use that access to flood the Earth with its chaotic consciousness.
And the ultimate dramatic tension occurs during the hospital siege, where Anne Kelly, now holding the forge, the source of containment and, ironically, the greatest power, becomes the central prize.
The hospital transforms into a zero-sum battleground. You've got the converging forces of the Asado Savants, desperate to capture Anne and extract the forge.
And you've got the human federal agents, Garvey and Neeland, who are unknowingly operating under the control of Asado.
Which makes our heroes targets of both the supernatural and the legitimate state apparatus.
The Savant assault is led by Shiva, the clan Asado's third-ranked operative, who the source material labels the cream of the crop.
A great title. She leads a team of agents disguised as feds, which Ping rightly labels grunts.
And Shiva's use of the Loom is devastating to modern infrastructure. She isn't just relying on muscle.
No, she's intentionally using her weaves to cause massive infrastructural damage, specifically targeting connectivity. She knocks out the hospital's wireless networks, makes the lights flicker dramatically.
And the most casual display of power is when she simply descends the elevator shaft by hovering.
A simple yet impossible application of a personal flight weave.
Inside, Anne Kelly is holding the line in the emergency room brawl, and the description of her combat is visceral. Her new combat prowess is overwhelming, characterized by just sheer, unholy violence.
And the chaos she unleashes is so profound that the screaming in the ER isn't coming from her.
No.
It's coming from the hospital staff witnessing the sheer brutality. We see her headbutting enemies, tearing off arms, actively destroying the sterile environment.
And what makes this so compelling is her internal state is a horrific contradiction, an overwhelming mix of intense determination born from her refusal to fear.
But absolute revulsion at the animalistic violence she's capable of. She hates the act, but she loves the resolve.
That internal struggle makes her the perfect anchor for the Forge, and the climax of the brawl is the defeat of Shiva in Operating Room 3.
Right. Shiva, composed and terrifying in her rich brown suit, finally corners Anne and Alex. She deploys her grappling weave, pinning Anne painfully to the ceiling, rendering her immobile.
And this is the moment where Alex, the dorky prodigy, has to prove his savant genius.
Exactly. Alex doesn't fight Shiva physically. He engages her on the Loom. He uses the distraction of Anne's struggle to focus his prodigious talents, and he begins to meticulously, rapidly, and functionally shatter Shiva's carefully constructed defenses.
He targets the specific weave structure that allows her to draw power and maintain her hold.
And the sources describe the immediate consequence as an unheard explosion. A power backlash on the Loom that physically rattles the structure, but is silent to the non-savants.
So it's like a psychic shockwave.
Exactly. This shattering of her defenses leaves Shiva momentarily exposed and vulnerable.
And this is when the legacy of Roy intervenes. Roy's sword, a highly forged weapon, delivers the finishing blow, striking through Shiva.
The force of the strike, combined with the power backlash, sends her flying across the street into the parking structure, warping the infrastructure, the steel beams and concrete upon impact.
It's a moment that combines Alex's technical genius with the inherited physical power of the fallen brother.
But the victory is short-lived. This massive expenditure of energy and power immediately draws the attention of the man who started it all, Isaac Kaspari, who appears almost mundanely like an urbane spokesman for European coffee.
He confronts Ping, Ray, Anne, and Alex in the hallway near the exit, and Ping, ever the man of action, attempts a simple disarming tactic. He kicks Kaspari's knee.
Which, the result is immediate and painful. Ping bounces violently off the far wall, landing on his back.
And his reflection on the failure is grim. He realizes the attempt went about as well as he could have hoped, meaning he expected to fail, but the execution was still shocking.
It immediately establishes Kaspari's power as far beyond Shiva's.
Kaspari then delivers this chilling and self-pitying revelation. He confirms he is the anchor holding the outsider in this world. The entity latched onto him when he returned from the underworld, and he can't break its hold without inviting the total collapse of reality.
And he clarifies his desperate, flawed plan. He tried to use Deck's forge to encapsulate the outsider's chaos, hoping to push it back through the breach he had created upon returning. This was his only way to save the world from his own catastrophic error.
But the deepest layer of tragedy here is his confession of failure. He admits that Deck's death and the subsequent transfer of the forge power to Anne ironically saved him from the outsider discovering his deception.
He reveals his plan was doomed. The outsider would have eventually realized he was trying to seal it, leading not to his death, but to a fate far worse: eternal capture and assimilation by the chaotic entity.
This creates an impossible situation. The anchor must be maintained, but the anchor is compromised.
Seeing this impending doom, Alex makes his final, desperate move. He consciously enters the Loom, attempting to help Kaspari, trying to cut, pry, and warp the tendrils binding Isak to the outsider.
But the raw, chaotic power of the outsider is too much, even for a prodigy. Alex is instantly overwhelmed, swatted aside, and pulled violently into the underworld, heading toward the outsider, described in horrific detail as a sea of insect sewage.
In those final moments, Kaspari collapses, releasing his hold on power as the breach threatens to consume both him and Alex. And both are momentarily pulled into a blinding white room, an ephemeral nexus where the memorably dead Evo, Roy, and Deck appear and speak.
This is the emotional climax. In this ethereal space, Deck, facing his father Kaspari, apologizes for ruining his hand, a mundane but poignant detail, but delivers a powerful final message. Don't die for it. Don't die for us. Live for us.
He reiterates the philosophy that defines their existence. You are not really dead as long as you are remembered, a state he beautifully coins as memorably dead.
And back in the hallway, Ping Bannon, having witnessed the failure of the anchor and hearing Kaspari's confession, executes the final act of pragmatic geometry. He realizes Kaspari is the compromised gateway.
He uses Roy's forged sword, the relic of love and sacrifice, to kill Isak Kaspari,
eliminating the anchor and hopefully sealing the breach. What a shocking, complex resolution.
Yeah.
The immediate threat is neutralized, but at the cost of the original architects. Let's take a step back and reflect on the lessons learned through this combat, starting with Ping's philosophy and the strange reality of fighting within this warped world.
Ping Bannon's father's teaching, all fighting breaks down to resolve and geometry, is tested and validated throughout the entire siege. Geometry dictates where you strike.
And resolve dictates that you strike when necessary.
Exactly. But the actual act of fighting is fundamentally altered by the Savant technology. Because of the Savants' jamming power, the sheer chaotic force of their weaves on the Loom human-made firearms are literally warped.
We see this detail everywhere in the sources. Ping, Ray, and the other officers find that their high-tech assault guns and pistols are subtly warped. Barrels are curved by several millimeters, or internal mechanisms suffer catastrophic jams.
The sheer energetic chaos of the Loom in use makes modern weaponry unreliable, sometimes even dangerous to hold.
Which necessitates that bizarre tactical shift to gunfu, not the movie version, but the brutal improvisational use of firearms as blunt force clubs.
Right. Police officers like Elena and Miranda Todd are forced to use their high-powered assault rifles like baseball bats, while Ray slams her flechette gun into a harm's head, snapping its knee.
It's the ultimate reflection of Ping's philosophy. When complexity fails, the warped gun, you have to rely on simplicity, resolve, and blunt force geometry.
The sophisticated tools of the human world are useless against the reality-warping power of the Savants.
The confusion of the outside world, meanwhile, is summed up by the frantic testimony of the surgical staff who fled OR3 after Anne's brawl. They were left trying to categorize the chaos, reporting that they encountered cops, monsters, witches, and one really scary phlebotomist.
That quote perfectly encapsulates the surface world's inability to process the truth. They tried to fit the battle into familiar categories, law enforcement, mythology, caricature, but the reality was a phlebotomist, driven by determination, being the most terrifying force of all.
And finally, the sources circle back to the central theme that underpins this entire deep dive: the profound power of connection and family, the very thing people were desperately seeking through chemical shortcuts earlier in the narrative.
Ping reflects on the wisdom of his Granny Ow, who taught him that being alone ain't being free, it's just being empty.
And he realizes the profound truth that his new, unlikely family, Alex, Ray, and Anne, forged in the heart of this apocalypse, is the framework of your freedom.
This is the ultimate lesson gained through violence. True freedom is found in mutual reliance, not isolation.
And we see Rey's final, full transformation rooted in this connection. She moves past her self-pity and her internal struggles about feeling unpretty. She accepts the genuine, unvarnished love Alex offers.
And she accepts his marriage proposal, which was delivered in that wonderful, unorthodox manner entirely appropriate for a genius savant. I think I've been asking since the first time I told you no.
And at a final, brilliant nod to their complex, rule-laden relationship that we discussed earlier, the no lying, no bedroom, no sex rules, they dramatically simplify.
Their only remaining major rule is hilariously simple. They are now allowed to lie sometimes.
They found genuine, messy, apocalyptic connection, and in doing so, they discarded the need for a rigid, absolute honesty.
Yeah, the initial strict framework designed to protect them from pain is replaced by a fluid framework built on trust, allowing for the occasional necessary lie. The white lie, the protection, the small freedom.
So to synthesize the core narrative, this conflict came at an immense cost. The deaths of Ivo and Roy, the near dissolution of reality by the outsider, the loss of Kaspari.
But the outcome is the creation of a new, powerful family born from that crisis, a family that is armed, not just with swords and enhanced abilities, but with genuine, honest, unyielding connection.
And as we heard from Deck in that blinding white place, they gave us the concept of being memorably dead. You are not really dead as long as you are remembered.
That legacy of love and persistence, from Roy's crude pewter cross to his cherished vanilla ice CD, symbols of profound and simple devotion, is what provided the geometric and emotional key to their survival.
And this leaves us with the immense, final, provocative question, one that defines the future of this world. Isaac Kaspari, the original anchor, is gone.
And Anne Kelly now holds the Forge Deck's immensely powerful and chaotic transference of power. What role does her determined, newly powerful persona now play?
Anne's new self was born from a profound, violent refusal to live a life squandered on fear and self-pity. She holds the raw power intended to contain the outsider. So is she merely the new, highly volatile containment unit, holding the chaos at bay through sheer force of will.
Or had the intensity of her unique transformation, the grounding of the Forge in human determination and righteous fury, unleashed something new that this ancient world of savants has not prepared for?
The outsider sought access to the Loom. Anne has the Forge, the power that contains and warps chaos, anchored by pure, unyielding resolve.
So consider this. What essential knowledge or application do you now carry personally that you gained through a desperate, high-stakes, life-altering experience?
Think about that. We've taken a deep dive into the hidden world, and now it's up to you to navigate the next storm with this newfound knowledge.